In the bitter cold of a Canadian winter, two American armies marched through snow and wilderness with one bold goal: capture Quebec and bring Canada into the American Revolution. But what awaited them behind the city's icy walls was not glory, but disaster. This is the story of courage and chaos, of ambition and defeat. This is the Battle of Quebec, America's first great military failure. December 31st, 1775. In the dead of winter, amidst howling winds and heavy snowfall, American troops stood outside the fortress walls of Quebec. Their goal? To bring the colony of Canada into the American Revolution. But what followed was one of the earliest and most painful defeats of the war. The Battle of Quebec was the climax of a bold plan by the Continental Army. Just months after the start of the Revolutionary War, American leaders believed that French-speaking Canadians might join the rebellion if offered freedom from British rule, so Congress approved an invasion of British Canada. Two American columns were sent north. One, led by General Richard Montgomery, moved through Lake Champlain, capturing Fort St. John's and eventually taking Montreal. The other force, commanded by the ambitious Benedict Arnold, undertook a brutal march through the wilderness of Maine. His men suffered from hunger, disease, and freezing temperatures, but they made it to Quebec. By early December, Arnold and Montgomery joined forces outside Quebec City, but they were in a tough spot. The British governor, General Guy Carleton, had fortified the city. His defenders included British regulars, Canadian militia, and Loyalist volunteers. Despite cold and starvation, Carleton refused to surrender. Time was running out for the Americans. Supplies were low, enlistments were expiring, and spring would bring British reinforcements. So Montgomery and Arnold devised a risky plan, a surprise attack during a snowstorm. In the early hours of December 31st, the Americans moved into position. Their plan was to attack from two sides. Montgomery would lead his troops along the southern edge of the city, while Arnold would approach through the lower town from the north. They hoped to meet in the middle and overwhelm the British defenders. But the snowstorm that was meant to hide their movements also disoriented the troops. Montgomery's column was the first to face disaster. As they approached a barricade, a volley of British cannon and musket fire erupted. Montgomery was killed instantly, along with most of his officers. His men panicked and retreated. On the other side of the city, Arnold's force was pushing through narrow, icy streets. Then, Arnold was shot in the leg and had to be carried away. Command passed to Captain Daniel Morgan, who led the charge into the lower town. For a brief moment, it looked like the Americans might succeed. But then, the British counterattacked. The narrow streets became a trap. Surrounded and outnumbered, Morgan and his men were forced to surrender. By dawn, the battle was over. More than 400 Americans were killed, wounded, or captured. General Montgomery was dead. Arnold, though wounded, would escape and remain outside the city with a small force, but the campaign had failed. The Americans attempted a weak siege through the winter, but it was hopeless. When British reinforcements arrived in May 1776, Arnold's troops retreated south in defeat. The Battle of Quebec was a turning point. It ended any realistic chance of bringing Canada into the Revolution. Most French Canadians chose to remain loyal to the British Crown. The American dream of a united North American rebellion died in the snow outside Quebec's walls. Montgomery became a martyr and hero in the American cause. Arnold, still a respected commander, would later go on to commit the most infamous act of betrayal in American history. But on this frozen night, both were brave men fighting against impossible odds. The Battle of Quebec stands as a stark reminder of the high cost of ambition and the brutal nature of early war. A failed invasion, a lost opportunity, and a painful lesson that the road to independence would be long and bitterly fought. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories from history. Until next time, stay curious.